Have you ever noticed how television and print media will scream themselves hoarse in news documentaries, editorials, and heavy analytical pieces about rising pornography, crime, violence, gunplay, etc.? And yet, in the same TV guide announcing the latest special on the crisis of sex and violence in America, there will appear an advertisement for Miami Vice, the show that brings you the action and excitement you have come to expect, etc. Or your newspaper will condemn sex and violence in the loftiest terms, but there in its entertainment section is a half-page advertisement for a new action movie, accompanied by a photo of women in string bikinis and high heels fondling automatic weapons. It's from Secret Societies and Psychological Warfare by Michael Hoffman. Author I highly recommend. Hello and welcome to another edition of the Stench of Truth. I have a little story I want to impart to you, and then I'll hit on a couple of news items. First is the origin of my internet identity. Some people have been mispronouncing my screen name, not through any fault of their own, because Lord knows if you didn't know the origin of it, it's quite easy to not get it right. So please don't take any offense to it if you've been one of the ones who hasn't pronounced my name properly. And I'll give you a little background on how I came up with this name, why I have it now, and the pronunciation thereof. Anyway, my name is to be pronounced tenebrous-TEE. Tenebrous-TEE. And that comes from the word tenebrous, which if you look in a dictionary means dark and gloomy, or dark or gloomy. And T, which is my initial, so tenebrous-TEE. Dark and or gloomy tea. And the way I came up with this particular screen name has a rather interesting and also sad story. Many years ago I used to be friends with someone via the internet, and eventually we came to talk to each other quite often on the phone, and grew to be rather close. And we had decided through some mutual internet activities that we both engaged in that we would adopt internet personalities that were related to one another. And we tried to think of something that would be rather interesting to base our names on. And she chose the name Dr. Erebus, which is another term which means dark, and I chose the name tenebrous-TEE. So we both had a name which meant dark or gloomy or something along those lines, because we both had an interest in dark and gloomy things. Not that we're, you know, depressed or anything like that, but simply because that's where our interests lie. Unfortunately, that individual, who I will decline to mention the name of, sadly passed away from I believe a heart attack in her sleep. Well, this has been many years now, so it's not something that just happened, you know, recently. But and that was a very sad incident for me. Even though I never met her in person, I felt that I knew her very well, and it was a very very sad thing to discover that she had died. And of course she had suffered from several health problems over the years, and I guess to some people it wouldn't have been much of a surprise that that would happen, but she was very, very young to have died so suddenly like that. The only thing that would be good about it was the fact that she apparently died in her sleep. So she probably didn't suffer too much. But anyway, I chose that name a long time ago. I chose the name that I use, and that's what I use for almost all of my online activities, is tenebrous-TEE. And it's the combination of the word tenebrous with my initial T to give you the one word tenebrous-TEE. So there's a little bit of history, ancient if you will. And now I'll go on to talk about a couple of things that are in the news. First of all, jobless claims rise more than expected to 640,000. Also, the filing claims for unemployment benefits topped 6.1 million. Now, we've talked about this before, about how the numbers are being played and how it's quite obvious that what they're telling us is not true. They're making this shit up as they go along. They're trying to pretend as though the unemployment situation is not as bad as it is, but in actual fact it's much worse than they're letting on. This is one of those things that is going to have to slip through the cracks, because you cannot hide 6 fucking million people who are unemployed. Okay? So if they want to continue to try to ram down our throats that the unemployment level is way less than what they say it is, or that it's way less than what it actually is, I mean to say, then they better come up with a better fucking plan, because they're not fucking doing it the right way. This stuff is slipping out, and the cracks are showing in this fucking house of cards that they've put up to try to put support underneath this fucking failing economy. So keep your eye on that figure, and keep your eye on the unemployment data, because that is the one thing I think that they really can't hide all that well. Because then when there are millions of fucking people who are out of work and looking for fucking unemployment benefits that aren't coming, you can't very well hide that too much. Someone's going to get fucking wind of it. You can hide all the other shit with your fake stock market rallies and all that stuff. And you can even hide the unemployment thing a little bit, but you can't brush it totally under the fucking carpet. Millions of people show up at some point. Someone's going to see them. They're going to say, hey, what are all them fucking millions of people doing over there? Are they all not working? Can't hide it completely. So keep your eye on that issue, because that's a telling factor in what's really going on in this economy. And it indicates that shit is still going down the fucking drain. Same thing goes with the mortgage side of things. Now remember, we just had the suspicious suicide of the head of Freddie Mac. Wow. At the same time, we have had the release of quote-unquote disappointing numbers in the mortgage industry, which could indicate deeper underlying problems within that system. How much more suspicious can it be to have this guy just decide to kill himself whenever there's new information indicating that the mortgage side of this fiasco is much fucking worse than we had been led to believe? So I want to see somebody look into that. And I want to see someone dig into fucking Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae and find out just what the fuck is going on there under that fucking blanket of secrecy that they got over that. And lastly, but certainly not leastly, Obama is talking tough about credit cards. So, in order to address the issue of credit card abuses, our wonderful president has hosted the fucking CEOs of the credit card companies in order, presumably, to come up with a way to help fucking consumers. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but would this be akin to the farmer hiring the motherfucking fox to tell him what he needs to do to protect his fucking chickens? Now, in all the talk that I've seen about this, I have not seen a single fucking mention of one fucking consumer protection group. No one fucking agency, no one fucking consumer group, nothing. Not even an individual to represent consumers, to find out what's important to fucking consumers. And yet, he's going to host the fucking credit card CEOs? Oh, sure. I'm sure they'll come up with a really good plan to save us and protect us from their abusive practices. Yes, that's right. So, while you might want to talk about doing something good, Mr. President, everything that you actually do is a bunch of fucked up bullshit. And it's about time everybody fucking realize that. Thank you. Good day.